Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining this week's Profoundly group chat, where we connect with leaders from across the ecosystem and dive deep on their learnings and their journeys and insights that they would have to share with the Profoundly community. I've got a very special guest with me today. Daryn Smith is joining us. Daryn is the Group Chief Executive Officer at Huble, a global HubSpot AI and creative consultancy who most of us know really well. Excited to dive deep. Daryn's got over 25 years of experience across computer science, marketing, CRM. Daryn, I'm sure you'll share your background with folks, but we're super excited to have you, super excited to dive into your journey, starting MPULL, merging and founding and kind of scaling Huble. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Cool. Yeah, good to be here.
Awesome. Just to kick it off, Daryn, for folks that may not know you yet, would you mind sharing a little bit about kind of your journey and how you got where you are?
Sure. So yeah, you highlighted a few things now in that introduction. But one of the things that about myself is I actually don't really like learning. I absolutely hated school, and so when I finished, I wanted to again go travel and so on. And my parents said, "No ways, you've got to go and study." So this was kind of mid to late 90s. And so I found a computer science degree that was 1 year. I thought, okay, I'll just put myself through 1 year of pain and then go and study. That was followed by kind of the Y2K heyday, and I made a bunch of money, like kind of doing Y2K upgrades and so on. And then got my first job, which was at a company called UUNet. It was one of the world's first ISPs. And my job was to, as a developer, to build our websites, our intranet and our extranet. But there were no CMSs whatsoever back then. No WordPress, no nothing. So like you literally had to code pixel by pixel kind of the websites. And what happened was UNet got acquired by WorldCom. And so we started to go through a rebranding process. So I was told, go and look at the WorldCom website in North America, copy it pixel for pixel. The marketing team, back then we had like fax machines, so they had to print new letterheads and so on. And we decided that we were going to do a rebrand, and everybody was going to come into the office on a Monday morning, and they would have a brown paper bag on their desk with a new T-shirt and lanyard and a moleskin book, and everything would say WorldCom. And we came in, and on the Friday morning, we all got called to the auditorium. And the CEO stood up and said, you know what, on Monday, WorldCom are going to announce that they're going into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And so they've told us, whatever we do, do not rebrand to WorldCom. So let's stay UNet. And he said, but the other sad news is that we have to announce some layoffs. And starting off with, we're going to lay off the marketing department because marketing wastes money. And we're going to lay off the training department because who needs to train people? And then we're going to lay off the HR people because they've laid off everybody else. And at about 4:45 that day, I got called into his office, and I thought, okay, here's my turn to get laid off. And he said to me, "You do our websites, right?" So I said, "Yeah, I do the websites." He's like, "Great, you are our new marketing manager." And so I went from being a techie to marketing overnight, and it was great fun. I mean, like I did what I think marketers did for the next year. He gave me quite a lot of money to spend and took people to sport. I made lots of pens. We actually won an award for the first live streamed ad ever in the world. So won ad awards, that type of thing. And at the end of the year, he said to me, where's our growth? Why haven't we grown like our competitors? And I said, well, I don't know. We won awards. I spent the money. What are you complaining about? And his reply was, I think you need to go and study, which obviously, because I hate studying, that was like the worst thing possible I could have ever heard. But I went and I ended up doing a 3-year degree part-time in marketing. Within the first 6 weeks, it was so obvious what I'd been doing wrong. It's marketing 101, it's positioning. I was having so much fun spending our money that nobody knew what the hell we stood for. So eventually Verizon bought WorldCom, and I became the head of marketing for Verizon Business. And then there was a global rollout of Siebel, which was the DOS of CRMs. Yeah. And I know Yamini used to work at Siebel as well. So I mean, at the time, there were probably about 6,000 people working in the company. And somehow they identified me. They were like, right, well, you've got a computer science background and a marketing background in B2B. So you're going to be the primary stakeholder for the Siebel project. You're going to be the sponsor, and that's what got me into CRM. Yeah, that's the kind of big background story before we go into then going into the agency world.
That's incredible. And Daryn, I think you have won the award for fastest start to a group chat ever. We went, we went from I don't like learning through an incredible journey. I've got so many questions. I think one of them, though, is like how you went from that background, which is incredible, to starting MPULL. So you're rolling out Siebel, and then from what I know, MPULL starts. But is there something in between, or how did that happen?
Yeah, so I mean, like my career then at UNet that turned into WorldCom, that turned into Verizon, eventually turned into MTN, was all telecoms. I mean, like my hobby, well, not that I do it that much anymore, but my hobby is surfing. And so I live in Cape Town. I live next to one of the most famous surf spots in South Africa. And my boss said to me, "You've got a team now. You've got 30 people reporting to you. We need you in Johannesburg." Now, Johannesburg is a landlocked city. There was no way that I was going to go there. It turned out that if I read the fine print of my employment contract, they had the right to move me. I ended up leaving. Look, I definitely see a gap in the market in South Africa in terms of B2B marketing. Every single time I spoke to an agency about B2B marketing, they said, "All right, you must do Google AdWords." I was like, there's so much more to B2B marketing than Google AdWords. And so I started to look at technology. And I knew I wanted to start something by myself. One of my other traits that I learned about myself in those kind of 15 years is I don't do really well with authority. Reported to somebody isn't something that works well for my personality. So yeah, I looked at the Scott Brinker infographic, which, back then, that was 2012. There was 350 pieces of MarTech on that infographic. And when it came to kind of marketing automation and systems that were a little bit more holistic, there was HubSpot, Eloqua, ExactTarget, which is now Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and something that I think was Silver something. So I didn't have many that I needed to reach out to, right? I filled out the contact us forms on those 4 websites. Yeah. Nobody came back to me. Nobody. So when nobody responds to you, what do? You go to Twitter. So I tweeted ExactTarget, HubSpot, Eloqua, said, "Hey, I want to buy from you, but no one's getting back to me." And then my phone rang, and it was G2. Who had just moved to Dublin to set up HubSpot's first international office. And he said, "I'm so sorry. Our CRM, which I think used to be Salesforce, didn't know where to route your lead because everybody knows that I'm in Dublin now, but I don't even have a desk yet." And so your lead just got lost in the space. And so I got speaking to him, and I ended up signing up as a HubSpot partner. I think for me, like, what was really interesting was the concept of inbound marketing. Because by this stage, 15 years in marketing, I had spent so many millions, and I was absolutely convinced that there was no return on investment. And so when I read these blog posts and they said, right, so you write blog posts, then people download some content, then you send them some fake emails, and then they become a customer. I was like, well, that's not going to work. But hey, let's give it a try. And I did it, and I got like 3 or 4 customers within like a month. I mean, it was inbound marketing heyday, like 2012. All you had to do is create content, and customers came. But yeah, so that went from like just me at my dining room table. I actually went, my neighbor who was a waiter. I said to him, "I think I need someone to help me, but please keep your waitering job because I'm not sure if this company is going to work out." And so he was waitering in the evenings and working for me during the day. And yeah, within 2 years, we went from me and him to 100 people. And that was entirely focused on South Africa, B2B marketing. And that was, I think HubSpot had their first partner day in 2013 or 14. And I got asked to speak. They said, like, well, you're this guy on the tip of Africa, and your agency is growing faster than like agencies in the US and agencies in Europe. Like, what are you doing differently? And I'm like, I think the key thing, and it still is the key thing that has driven all our success, is I never work in the business. I have never worked in the business. Maybe the first few customers I worked in the business. What I see with so many HubSpot partners is the founder is the primary consultant or the primary solution architect or the main salesperson, that type of thing. Maybe it's because of my like kind of going back to my hate for studying. I think it's about a bit that I'm a bit lazy. And so I'm so lazy that I spend all my time trying to find ways to do less work. But I end up spending so much time building a business as a result because everything is scalable and so on. Anyway, like the point of the story is that every time I got off stage, whether it be in the Cambridge office with the HubSpot partner days used to be in the office or in the Dublin office, I would have people come to me and go like, like, could we outsource to you? Like, you charge us rands and we'll charge our customers dollars. And I thought about it. I was like, well, yeah, why not? And that pivoted the business. After 2 years. We changed from a business that was serving end clients in South Africa to a business that was serving HubSpot partners around the world, doing generally very technical things, very complex things, still fairly marketing focused. But that's what the kind of it was that kind of speaking engagement. So I always like really promote speaking engagements because I think it's what's helped kind of build this business into what it is today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I suppose as HubSpot became more and more technical, it became increasingly difficult to be a white labeled partner behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Right? Because when in a technical engagement, you always have questions that you need to ask a CTO or a IT manager, or where's the database for this particular segment? What's the password? Is there a firewall? What's the data model? And inevitably, when they answer, you come up with 3 other questions you need to ask because you're like, oh, yes, okay, like now I need to know those 3 things. So being a kind of white labeled outsource partner became quite difficult because the HubSpot partners we were working with didn't want their customers to know that they were outsourcing. So that's what changed our model kind of a bit. And we continued the outsourcing model, but we became known to the end customer. We're like, right, now we're partnering with company X or company Y, and they would know about us. That changed things, but it slowed down our growth at that point. Yeah. So yeah, that's I suppose a good segue for the next part of the story.
That's incredible. And what year was that you sort of started to evolve back to? Because that makes perfect sense that with a technical engagement, you need more customer interaction. What year was that? It was like 2017-ish or?
Yeah, around 2017. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, because it was at that point where we started to say, right, like, well, how do we take this business forward? We kind of hit a plateau. So we had like some really good loyal customers and we we're partnering really well, but our growth was being held back by their growth, right? And if they weren't ambitious enough, then how are we going to grow? And that's when we like, okay, we need access to that end customer.
Got it. Makes a ton of sense. So we've got folks in the community that are thinking big about scaling. If you look back on MPULL, specifically the first, say, year or so, is there something that you would have done differently?
Yeah, and it's probably not the nicest thing to say in that I think we invested a huge amount in young graduates. And if I were to do it again, I would go straight into more experienced people. Maybe not extremely senior people, but like I ended up having to run training sessions, for example, on how to manage your calendar. Yeah. Like instead of like, how to do something technical and so on. So like, obviously the big problem for us was budget. We were bootstrapped. We didn't have any investment. So I couldn't just go out and hire somebody $120,000 kind of person. I had to go with the graduates. Yeah. Maybe instead of hiring 3 graduates, ended up having with quality issues and that type of thing. Maybe I could have pooled that budget and hired a single experienced person. As I say, not the nicest thing to say because like then how do we invest in the future? How do we invest in people? And we've got a program now where we have younger people coming into the business and we scale them up and so on. But I think, yeah, starting out in those, as you said, in that first year or two, putting a 21-year-old in front of a VP of marketing was a bit of a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, yeah. I can appreciate that. Okay, so then you've launched MPULL, you've sort of scaled to 100 people or so. You start to pivot back to more client-facing work in around 2017, sort of a direct customer motion versus white labeling. And then what happens? Is this when you have sort of the conversations with B2B Marketing Lab?
Yeah, so at this point we decided, right, like there's value in dealing with the end customer. We also think we had like a bit of a PR problem. People associated the fact that we were in South Africa with low cost. And so we wanted to change that perception that we are headquartered somewhere else. And not just like, like really be somewhere else, it's not just a perception, but so yeah, I went to each one of our customers. I had a really good customer, and all these people are still friends today, but a really good customer, Sinks Charles in Australia, a couple of partners that I was dealing with in the US, whether it be KBK, Senior Living Smart, yeah, a couple of the other well-known ones I won't mention because I'm not sure if they know that there was outsourcing happening, and then in the UK as well. And when it comes to mergers, I think like the kind of cliched thing of what really matters is personality fit, similar values, that type of thing. So we took it slowly, ended up agreeing in kind of the back half of 2019 to merge the two businesses. Now, my business was obviously, the brand was associated with outsourcing. The name B2B Marketing Lab was one sounding only B2B, and we already had some B2C clients. We were doing a lot more than marketing, so that name wasn't relevant. So we had to find a new name. And like, the Huble, like obviously inspired by HubSpot, but like also came down to searching for domain names that were available.
That's so true.
And so yeah, we signed the final paperwork kind of 4 days before the hard lockdown, airports closed and that type of thing. And immediately, like, we had quite a few clients in travel, and we started to get cancellations, and we had to put some staff on furlough, and we're like, what have we done? Like, this is the worst thing we could have possibly done. But in hindsight, I think it was a blessing, really. In that since then, we've acquired 2 more HubSpot partners, and none of the integrations have gone as well as our initial integration. And I think that's because the way that mergers generally happen and acquisitions generally happen is the top dogs fly to the new location, and then they put stuff on a whiteboard and they make decisions. And there's this bottom down approach. Like, this is our new pricing, this is our new proposition, this is how we're going to do things, this is our new brand, done.
Yeah.
Because of the pandemic, we were all suddenly remote. Suddenly everybody had time because we had all these customer cancellations. And it became this really, really collaborative process where anybody that wanted to be involved in working out how we're going to integrate the two businesses could get involved. And we had this fairly rapid integration. Obviously, we were already working together for quite a while, so we had the same systems and so on in place. And I think we integrated just in time for like the post or the later pandemic stage digital transformation boom. And what we saw there is we still had 100 people back in South Africa. We had around about 25 people or so in the UK. We had a few people in Singapore. We had opened up a small Singapore office for one of our clients, and we decided we're going to open up kind of in the US, in HubSpot's biggest market. We actually got ourselves an office in Chicago, like a real office. No one ever went there. Eventually, we canceled the lease. But, yeah, with that presence, that kind of ended up driving our strategy. So what we suddenly realized is that with those locations, we could offer follow the sun 24 hours a day support. And what type of businesses need that? Multinationals. So we started to focus. That's what drove us to start working with bigger customers, and it was actually our customers that drove our further expansion. So we closed together with HubSpot back in, I think it was 2021, HubSpot's biggest customer at the time. It was, I think, the first proper partner assist type deal, although called collab back then. And the immediate requirement was, hey, we have a German office and we need all our German employees trained in German. And we're like, wow, like how are we going to do that? Obviously, we can look at freelancers, but then we also had a security issue in that client had required us to get ISO 27001 accredited, and we were worried about, how do you do that, like using a freelance network and so on. So we looked at about 10 different German kind of partners and ended up acquiring a partner run by two Irish people, weirdly enough, that do kind of live in Germany, not married to each other, but married to other people. And that opened up our German office. And then it was shortly after that, we closed another really big deal. And they immediately said we needed French requirements. And that's what led to our Belgium acquisition. It's quite difficult to do it's quite difficult to stick with French labor laws. So that's why we looked at Belgium as an alternative.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember you were hustling. I remember you were always on a plane there for a while. That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, yeah, I mean, I always kind of say, like, my real job title is Chief Party Officer. The reason why is because I arrive at one of our offices and everyone goes, amazing, you're here. Like this evening, we've got a customer dinner, and then we go customer dinner followed by drinks. Then tomorrow morning, we've got a prospect breakfast. So do the prospect breakfast. The next night, we actually have a team build. So the team's getting together. And then the next day, there's a lunch. And 3 days later, I'm exhausted, but I go to the next city and I get the exact same reception, like, oh yeah, you're here. Let's and so yeah, that's my real title is Chief Party Officer, and my wife knows by the time I get back from any of these trips that I go on, I'm ready to hibernate and do no socializing for a few weeks after that.
Yeah, I'm sure she loves that. I'm sure. Amazing. Well, so one of the things that I remember from our walks around Inbound was, the shift, right? Sort of how I think about it. You talked about how Inbound is evolving. Back then, this was probably 2021 or whatever. And that, as Inbound evolves and as HubSpot's product evolves, becomes more technical, more hubs and so on. When a prospect has a question about the product, they go to HubSpot, right? And that was always one of the challenges, sort of generating these leads, this demand that then kind of went around the partner. Can you talk a little bit about like that evolution, how things evolved and what those changes meant for you, like how you handled that? Because I think it's a pretty impressive story, frankly.
Well, I mean, like, I don't know if we have the silver bullet solution yet. It's still a challenge that we face nowadays. I think, I think as HubSpot's brand has grown, as well as us making that decision to serve multinationals and large customers, I think when you look at the small business, the way that a small business owner buys is they turn to Google or now to an AI frontier model and asks a question. And if you're the provider of that answer, there's a very good chance that they will feel some sort of debt to you and contact you for further information. But when you look at that kind of that larger business and so on, like they go to Gartner or to Forrester or just to HubSpot directly and be like, hey, we've got a requirement. So it's been a shift. Like for us, like our marketing team has gone from being kind of typical inbound blog creators, and we now do a lot more kind of in-person events. We sponsor a lot of conferences, so we need to be where the decision makers are. We do a lot of first-party research on topics that are cutting edge and release those reports. We've built a sales team, so we've got, it could be bigger, but we've got 2 sales reps in every single region that we operate in. So we've got 5 key regions. That's 10 sales reps. And these are senior people. I suppose they come more from like a digital transformation background than a sales background. They've got networks. Their job is they do need to do some outbound and and so on as a long-term goal. We also source our own RFPs. So we've got a program in place to identify kind of RFPs. So there's a lot of things that we do to make that shift, but it has been a significant shift. And as I say, like, I don't think that we've got it 100% correct yet. There's still many improvements that I think that we can make to how we generate that demand. And I think one of the big things that I still kind of battle with is how much do we position ourselves as a HubSpot partner versus something more broad? Because if you think of it like the traditional old sales funnel, right? Somebody has a challenge. They then decide CRM is the solution to their challenge. They then shortlist HubSpot, Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics. They then choose HubSpot. You can't go lower at the bottom of the funnel than a HubSpot implementation partner, right? So what at the moment, we still fairly positioned down as a HubSpot implementation partner, and we've been adding additional consulting services that are further up the funnel on our website to create demand and change the brand perception. But that's a move, and I definitely do not want to cut off a good kind of go-to-market channel. So we're looking at how do we add a new go-to-market motion. And one of the things that we've definitely spotted is you get, like, when it comes to sales consulting, you get Sandler and the other big sales training and sales consultancies, and then below that, nothing.
Yeah.
Right down the bottom, there's the freelance sales consultant that does a bit of sales training, but there's nothing in the middle. So that's one of the areas that we've really kind of double clicked on and gone, right, like there's got to be this mid-market demand for sales consulting that's got nothing to do with technology, right?
Yeah.
So if you've got a problem, you need to develop a new go-to-market channel, or your forecasting isn't working, or you need to know how to structure a sales team, or you want to open up a new market or something like that. Like where do you go? Like, a lot of sales leaders will do that themselves.
Yeah.
But we try to build that offering, a marketing consulting offering that we've always kept. A lot of HubSpot partners often go, right, well, we're just going to go all technical and we're not going to do the marketing side. We've kept the marketing side because we believe that's an additional go-to-market channel. And why cut off something that's already generating revenue? So we do technical, we do sales consulting, marketing consulting, websites. Yeah, that's pretty much the breadth of the services. So like the full front office, basically.
And would you say that the demand comes in evenly over those 3 or 4 categories? Like, is it pretty even, or?
No, not really. I mean, I think that the move into other consulting is still growing. I think that, having that kind of legacy marketing funnel still generates a fair amount of business for us.
Yeah.
But I think what I think over time is going to happen is I think that we will start getting increased volume of leads from our newer channels. But at the moment, it's not even. And we still rely too much on our partnership with HubSpot. It's I like to think of the deals we close together with HubSpot as the cherry on top. They should not be our bread and butter. At the moment, I think they're a little bit between that.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's always an interesting question. And as we've got folks in the community thinking big about this stuff, like, if you position as a all-in on HubSpot technical partner, it's just, my immediate reaction is it's such a crowded space. Like, there are so many, right? And like, the differentiation, I think, is something that we talked about quite a bit. It's like, when you're talking about marketing or you're talking about sales, you're layering in a lot of value before you're even talking about the product. That seemed to really work well. It's interesting, the thread of like positioning throughout your journey, like from the very early days, right? All the way through right now, just sort of, it stands out as a differentiator across every stage.
Yeah. And now, like, I suppose, I mean, I've had several other businesses as well. Not all of them have worked out. And so I suppose the thing that really rings true for me now is I've got good revenue streams. And so now it becomes more risky to reposition and change things. So, one of the other considerations I've had recently is, should I start a different brand to try and kind of diversify? But doing that doubles up your marketing cost and so on. So there's pros and cons to both. But it's certainly something that I've considered, because just changing positioning overnight was fine when we were trying to find go-to-market fit, but since we found go-to-market fit, we can't just do that overnight
Yeah.
anymore.
I don't know if this relates to those other things, but I'm curious, like obviously we can't have this conversation and not talk about AI and like what that's doing everywhere. I'm curious
Mhm.
like how AI has impacted Hubble, both internally, externally, all the things.
Yeah, I mean, like it's the impact is massive. For the first 7 years of MPULL, the kind of knots in my stomach and the stress that I had, the anxiety and so on, was all about, can I pay salaries at the end of the month? Like, and now I'm feeling that same type of thing when it comes to AI. What is going to get launched tomorrow? And I think it's for everybody in the ecosystem. I like, you look at what uh, agent kit that got launched by OpenAI, and immediately I look at that and I go, are all the agents HubSpot launched in September even relevant? Like with agent kit? So like, but I can guarantee you that if HubSpot didn't do anything, their share price would be even lower than what it is by people being fearful of AI. But yeah, in terms of Hubble, so some of the like kind of like, obviously we're using AI in our delivery. Like and whether that be kind of making social media posts out of content, we have found that there is an increased demand for content, like human written content. But why go through taking that piece of human written content and splitting it up into 50 social posts? So things like that, we're using it in our development. So speeding up the development of websites,
Yeah.
modules. I think one of the more impactful areas is in places where we used to build CRM cards or CRM extensions. We are increasingly building AI agents to do
Mhm.
that same thing. And where building a CRM card might have been 150 hours of development, like to build the equivalent AI agent is 20, 30 hours. So
Yeah.
it's much lower. So we've seen revenue getting eroded really, really fast. And it's making us wonder, should we switch to some sort of deliverables based pricing? At the
Mhm.
moment, we are time and materials. And because our work is so technical, there's guaranteed to be something that somebody didn't anticipate.
Yeah.
Whether it's our salesperson or our customer or somebody, time and materials is the safest way to go
Sure.
for
Yeah.
both parties. I'm sure customers would love us to commit to a deliverable. I've been burnt many times by doing that. But suddenly I'm thinking, is that where we have to go? Because do I now need to charge $10,000 for this particular thing because it's going to be done so much faster? And then we one of the other unique things that we do is we believe that rolling out technology with the same processes that you currently have is highly unlikely to make any difference.
Yeah.
Right? So technology should scale the processes that you've developed. So in all our engagements, all our HubSpot implementations, we first do process reengineering,
Mm.
and it takes about 2 to 3 months to do that part of the project. We do not touch the HubSpot portal in that time, and then we go into implementation. Now, what we've been doing in our process reengineering is one of the outputs is to look at all the processes, and then we put one of those little icons, those star icons that now represent AI, next to
Mm.
the processes that we believe can be replaced by an AI agent. And what we're starting to see is customers go, that's a good idea. And occasionally they'll say, can you build that AI agent for us?
Yeah.
And we'll say, but we've proposed 15. And they're like, well, let's just do one for now. Or they say, let's just get this project done and then we'll look
Yeah.
at all the cool things later. So we're
Hmm.
starting to that, as much as some of our revenue streams are eroding,
Huh.
we are building new revenue streams by creating custom AI agents.
That's
Um,
cool.
Once again, because our customers are large, very few of them use ready built agents because
Yeah.
their processes are unique. We build in like on agent.ai or Zapier Connect. We'll probably start using Agent Kit now. The HubSpot has in beta, they've allowed partners to now build custom agents. So using their frameworks, and we haven't tried it yet, but that's an area that we'll we're going to look at. And then the second part or third part to it is change management.
Yeah.
So I mentioned earlier that one of the reasons why we acquired in Germany and in France was because our customers were demanding training in German and in French. And HubSpot's an easy to use tool. Like, you can pretty much get away with one training session. But as we've seen it get more and more complex, and there's more customizations, and there's more integrations, and now there's AI agents. Like, we have now another new revenue stream, or it's not a new revenue stream, a revenue stream that is easier to sell than ever before is change management retainers. And if you take like an organization of 1,000, say 500 sales reps and 500 CSMs, even a really good performing company is going to have a 10% attrition rate. That means 100 people are going to resign every year and 100 people are going to start. And then that company's probably growing. So it's probably more than 100 people that are going to be onboarded. Now, obviously, they can watch the pre-recorded videos and that type of thing. But I mean, like, the probability that your HubSpot portal looks the same as it did a year ago, and so they can just watch the video, is highly unlikely. So what AI has done is it's allowed us to more easily sell these change management retainers. And a big part of that is encouraging, helping sales reps, CSMs and so on use the AI tools. And one of the unique ways that we do that is we combine it with analytics. So we go and say, hey, why is your West Coast team performing better than your East Coast team? I see why. I see, the West Coast team here is using this thing that the East Coast team isn't. Let's design a clinic for that. So it's not just publishing a training schedule and go, hey, tomorrow there's a training on customer agent, or tomorrow there's a training on using the forecasting tool in HubSpot. It's like very targeted, specific interventions. That might be a training session, it might be a video, it might be a newsletter, but addressing each of those, each problem or opportunity that we spot.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I'm conscious of time. Would love to open it up for folks, anybody that in the audience who has a question and wants to turn their cameras on and come off mute. Now would be a good time to do that. Let me see if I can adjust the view here. While folks are sort of making that change, Daryn, one question that I would have for you here is, for those that are in the community that are looking to sort of scale, what advice, any particular piece of advice that you would have for somebody sort of early on in their HubSpot journey?
So I suppose the one piece I've already mentioned, like, try not make yourself that valuable consultant, that valuable solution architect. If you do that, you're going to have no time for all the other things that you need to do, the marketing, the sales, the recruitment, the training, all of that type of thing. It's the hardest thing, but if you can do that, I think that's important. The second thing, and you called it out, I suppose, is the story of my life, positioning, differentiation. Like, I think there is so much vanilla in the HubSpot ecosystem, and HubSpot will say, choose an industry and pick an industry and position yourself on an industry. I don't think that's even unique enough. I think as a services business, what actually makes you unique is how you do something, right? It's because effectively you end up very often with the same output. You end up with a CRM configuration, or you end up with whatever, but what is your secret sauce to actually getting it done? And I think like, you need to identify what that is and get that message out to stand out. Because otherwise, what I see too often, and I think one of the worst qualities I love the ecosystem. The worst quality in this ecosystem, though, is the glass ceiling that has been created on rates, and it really holds back people's ability to grow. Because if you hire really good, high quality talent, it doesn't come cheap. And go to Gemini, go to ChatGPT, ask those systems, what is the rate of return you should get on an employee? And the rate of return recommended, and I've tried it myself, is 3. Now it says you can go between 2.5 and 3.5, but we go straight in the middle. So we take a salary, say we're paying somebody $10,000 a month. That means we must make $30,000 for that particular person. If that person how many hours can that person reasonably work without you burning them out? Right. So our goal is for each of our employees to work 100 hours a month. And so that immediately pegs your hourly rate at $300 an hour. That would be considered at the top of the threshold in the HubSpot ecosystem.
Yeah.
I think in differentiating yourself, in positioning yourself, like you need to try and position yourself outside of how everybody else is doing it. Otherwise, you're going to hit that glass ceiling. And when you hit that glass ceiling and you can only charge, say, $200 an hour, where's your profit going to come from in order for you to hire that next employee to grow? And so the first talk I ever did at Inbound, which I think was 2013 or 2014, you can go and find it. It is on YouTube somewhere, but it is on pricing strategies for partners. And it's an absolute passion of mine, but it's also one of the things that has made a massive difference for us, is being a little bit stubborn about this is what our hourly rate's going to be, because otherwise we can't make a profit.
Yeah, brilliant. That is a great place maybe to wrap for today, just given the time. Daryn, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining, for sharing your insights and your journey, and it's sort of a unique take on lots of different things. I know everybody got a lot out of the session. So thank you. Everyone who joined, thank you for joining. Few quick things. The session's been recorded. It'll be available in the community for anybody who hasn't had a chance to join live. Really encourage everybody to take one thing, at least, from today's discussion and actually sort of put it into practice. I think Daryn shared a lot of really great, valuable sort of lessons. I think they can benefit everybody. So, Daryn, thank you again. Everybody, thank you. Look forward to helping millions grow better than ever together.
Cool. Awesome. Good to see you, Brian.
Thanks, Daryn. Good to see you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.